The Trump judge who ordered the warrant in the Mar-a-Lago raid conducted by the FBI, his name is Reinhart, and he was the subject of a lot of questions during a prior show. We were wondering about his biography. Where did he come from? Who did he represent? And what is his story? And yesterday we learned that the court where his biography is housed, they actually sort of privated all of his information. They didn't want him to be doxxed and so on and so forth. And so we're keeping close tabs on that. But we can see here today, we're talking about new details that came out as a result of the search warrant. This comes over from Eric Trump and the Daily Mail. We'll read through that. But a lot of open questions still exist, and they are going to continue to exist as long as we don't know much about the warrant. And so a lot of eyeballs have been really peeled on this. What does the warrant say? What's in it, right? What did they take? What's the subject of it? Is this the first domino in a long list of additional warrants that are going to be coming? Like, did they need to get one box to see what's in the box? Oh, we thought that was in there. And now that we know that's in there, we can connect the dots, connect the chain, and go investigate other facets of Donald Trump. We don't know. So we've been asking ourselves, what is the warrant covering? And we don't have a lot of answers. We're going to see that there were questions about this on Fox News last night. We're also going to see that the judge actually, we're going to start here, ordered a response, which is an update on the actual court docket that sort of tells us what's going on with the warrant. And there are new questions about whether or not there was an informant. There was an exclusive over, I think, from Newsweek. And they're telling us that an informer told the FBI exactly what documents that Trump was hiding and where, right? So that's sort of, they have an inside man or woman. They've got a mole in Mar-a-Lago. Doesn't sound good. So we'll go through all of that. Now, while Donald Trump is under this onslaught, we can see that there are other Republican officials, other even legislators who are also the subject of the Democratic wrath. This guy, Representative Scott Perry, he comes out of Pennsylvania. He had his cell phone seized by the same FBI that is apparently investigating Donald Trump. It might be a separate investigation. It could be the same investigation. Don't really know too many details about it. But what you can see happening, it's sort of like in Star Wars, right? Execute Order 66 or something. And then everybody is just dropping all over the place. And this has been going on for a long time, really, ever since the January 6th riots took place. They have been using that as a cudgel to go after their political enemies. But now, we talked about this previously, it's sort of the break glass in case of emergency. They're running out of options. Donald Trump seems like he's only becoming stronger. And what are they going to do about it? So now they have to sort of escalate the entire saga. So they've done that. They're going after Scott Perry. I'm guessing others are, going to be on the list soon enough. It's just a matter of time. But is this having the response that they want it to have? Right? Is this being effective? I don't know. But we have some stories here from the AP and from others saying that they're handing Donald Trump the election on a silver platter. And so I want to start here with the judge ordering a response. And if you remember on this, yesterday we looked at this is the publicly accessible court docket over from Court Listener. You can go on this website and just add this, create an account, donate to the project. I do. And they do a very good job of scraping data from the public courts. And so here you can see we're in the court that belongs to Bruce Reinhart, same guy we talked about previously. And on August 5th, which was Monday, that's when we saw the sealed magistrate matter, search warrant, all of that be entered on 8/5. Okay, so not a whole lot here. The magistrate judge signed off on it. We got the warrant that was sort of authorized. And then a lot of activity took place today. Okay, so yesterday when we were looking at this, we didn't have any of these minute entries down here. But now we do. And look, it just keeps going. It goes all the way down. So let's parse through this real quickly and see what is happening. So we've got several different system entries saying that these are just restricted and sealed. These are sort of placeholder entries, so we can't see anything about them, right? They're just saying, hey, it's sealed. Something happened here. America, you don't get to see it, but we do. But take a look at this one. Now, Judicial Watch, Mr. Fitton, right? Tom Fitton over there. He is somebody who filed this motion, a motion to unseal the search warrant filed by Judicial Watch. So let's take a quick look at this. You can see it is 4 pages. We've talked sort of a lot. We haven't talked a lot about these types of motions, but these are sort of public records request motions. There's going to be very similar requests from the New York Times and from other news entities because they want the records. And here's what they say. They say the movement, Judicial Watch, respectfully requests this court unseal the warrant materials. On August 8th, FBI executed a search warrant at Trump's residence in Palm Beach. According to media reports, this is over the Presidential Records Act. According to this court docket, all entries, including the search warrant, are sealed. We can't see anything. Judicial Watch is a nonprofit, and we have a mission of educating the public about operations and activities that take place throughout America. Here, Judicial Watch is investigating the potential politicization of the FBI and the DOJ, and whether the FBI and the DOJ are abusing their law enforcement powers to harass a likely future political opponent of President Biden. Like literally, right? He's the sitting president. If the court were to unseal the materials, Judicial Watch would obtain the materials, analyze them, and make them available to the public. Easy. Unsealing the records, therefore, would further Judicial Watch's mission of educating the public. Federal courts have long recognized the common law right of access to these types of things. This extends to pre-indictment and search warrant materials, and they give us some case law, 1996, quoting, in re a search of office suites for world, right, and so on and so forth. So we get some sort of rules here. They say, look, Judge, based on this case law, all three considerations, all three of those cases we just cited there, support Judicial Watch's motion to unseal. Here's why. Judicial Watch seeks access to the warrant materials as part of its educational mission. If it's unsealed, Judicial Watch gets to do more education. They would obtain them and make them available to the public. Second, the public has an urgent and a substantial interest in understanding the predicament or the predicate for the execution of the unprecedented search warrant of a private residence of a former president and a likely political opponent. And third, no official explanation or information has been released about the search, right? Where has the White House been? Where has the DOJ been? Where's Attorney General Merrick Garland explaining what this was all about? Nowhere. Where's Karine Jean-Pierre giving us a semblance of assurance that this is not a political partisan witch hunt by a politicized partisan hack FBI? Nobody's giving any reassurances at all. So they say, as of the filing of this motion, the public record consists solely of speculation and innuendo. And Karine came out yesterday and said, well, we don't have to comment on ongoing investigations. And we say, this isn't the normal ongoing investigation, okay? This isn't crackhead Hunter Biden. You don't get to use that excuse anymore. This is the former president who's running again, and he's got 83 million plus people who are going to stand behind his side. So in short, the historical presumption, writes Judicial Watch, of access to warrant materials vastly outweighs any interest the government may have in keeping the materials under seal. We need to see it. Given the political context and the highly unusual action of executing a search warrant at the residence of a former president and a likely future political opponent, it is essential that the public understands as soon as possible the basis for the government's action. Any government interest in securing the identities of witnesses and confidential sources, if any, may be addressed by the appropriate redactions from the search warrant itself. So let us see it. If there's anything problematic on the warrant, you can go ahead and Sharpie it out like you do everything else. For the foregoing reasons, Judicial Watch respectfully requests that you unseal all of these documents. It says specifically, unseal the search warrant materials in this case as expeditiously as possible. Signed by Michael Budwick, who is a lawyer out of Florida representing Judicial Watch. So, right, that is, one motion. There's going to be a similar motion that sort of looks like that. That is also filed to unseal this, a letter by the Times Union. Okay, so another news entity that's going to do it here. I think the New York Times filed one. Yep, another one. Third-party motion to intervene filed by the New York Times. Right, same. It's going to be the same general framework. I guess we can take a quick look at it. But here is, here it is. So probably, 11 pages, a little longer. They file these sort of as a matter of course. And it's really the same arguments. So, the Times has standing to look at this. This court should grant access to search warrant records. So pretty nuts and bolts. Okay, not a whole lot of new information there. I think the Judicial Watch one was probably a little bit more succinct. So we'll leave it at that. Now, again, a lot of people have questions about this because what is in the warrant, and a lot of kind of lowbrow, unsophisticated commentators like Eric Swalwell, for example, is a representative out of, I think, California. And he was on Twitter saying Donald Trump should unseal the warrant or something. It's like, well, he doesn't run the courts and you want him to publish it. So what they're doing is they're shifting the burden. They're saying Donald Trump shouldn't have to be proven guilty. Donald Trump should be proving himself innocent, essentially, right? The government doesn't have the burden of proof. Trump has the burden of proof. And we talked about this on our morning walk and talk today, where I was saying, well, look, I mean, if that's the standard that Stinky Eric Swalwell wants to have, well, then he can just prove himself innocent of making bang bang with Fang Fang, right? The Chinese spy. So he can come out and he can show us his phone records, and he can publish all of his Facebook messages, and he can show us his Tinder account and, all of the other spies that he was talking with. And he can say, see, I was with all these spies, and they can verify that I was not with Fang Fang. So, right, it's a burden shifting attempt, and it's really not appropriate, but they know better. They're doing it anyways. So is the warrant something that the Trump people even have? We don't know. Here is the conversation that took place with Jesse Waters, and I think this woman was in conversation with Trump's lawyers who were actually there at the scene. She says they don't even have it.
People are saying, oh, well, why doesn't the president's attorney just release the warrant? They were probably handed a warrant before the feds showed up to kick the door down. Why wouldn't you do that?
Actually, my understanding from the attorneys on the ground was that they weren't given the warrant. They were allowed to see it and then taken back.
Oh, so they don't have a copy of it.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so don't know. And many people say, well, that may be because it's a national security thing, right? They're looking for documents that are classified. And so Trump has security clearances, right? But his lawyers don't. Like, Trump was the former president, but his lawyer was not. So why would they get access to know what's in there when they don't have the same privileges and the same clearance and all this stuff? Well, we'll see. But if it really is just about the records, well, may mean this whole thing is sort of much ado about nothing. Now, we do have new details that came out from Eric Trump, and he says that there were 30 agents who were there and they refused to hand over the warrant. Right? They kicked the lawyer off the property, they rifled through clothes, and they say that Mar-a-Lago staff refused to turn off security cameras, and how they refused to turn off security cameras. So, in addition to all of the potential constitutional violations that are already, let's say, we can't say violated, but we can say implicated, certainly. The question becomes, there are other criminal protections in place. Are they violating those? Okay, so let's say Donald Trump is not the former president, which by itself creates a whole insane amount of problems. Let's just say he's a regular guy and the FBI shows up at your residence and they say, I want to search everything. And I want my warrant. I want my lawyer here. I want all of these things and all. So are there potential legal violations that are consequential once this moves forward? We don't even know. Right. So I guess my point is we're going to have a political sort of defense. We're going to have constitutional defenses, presidential defenses. Then we're going to have just your standard regular old bland criminal defenses in addition to everything else. So we don't even know what it looks like yet. Eric Trump revealed FBI agents refused to hand over the search warrant when they were there for their raid. He spoke exclusively to Daily Mail. Former president's son said 30 agents arrived on property and asked staff to turn the security cameras off, but they refused. So we'll see more of that. Good call. He also said that the attorney who was there was forced to stand at the end of the Mar-a-Lago driveway while the team searched inside and allegedly used safe crackers to break into his father's safe. He called the raid another coordinated attack, which I agree with. The latest explosive account comes after the DOJ is now facing mounting pressure to explain what grounds they had for the search. Christina Bobb called into a show, said there's 30 agents here, called Eric. Wow. Eric stood at the driveway. Yeah. All right. So you can see here some photographs of what it looked like at the scene. People are taking photographs of these officers who are pictured armed Secret Service agents stand outside the entrance. So you've got the Secret Service are now sort of coordinating with the FBI to rummage through Trump and Melania's belongings. Here's a quick clip. This woman was on somebody's show, Christina Bobb. She was on let's listen.
So I don't know what time they got there. I got a phone call around 10 a.m. that I needed to get to Mar-a-Lago immediately. There was, incident, something happening, and I needed to get there and try to, figure it out. So I arrived about 10:30. The FBI was already there, had already started their search. So I'm guessing they probably got there around 9:30. They got there and they had a team of a couple dozen agents that dispersed on the property and did what the FBI does, just like in a movie. You see them doing their process. So, yeah.
Now, you were on.
Amazing. So they were just kind of going through everything. FBI declined to comment. Eric said he would be thrilled to find out if there was a valid search warrant. Lawyer showed up, said, when I arrived, I kind of announced myself as the legal representation for Trump. I asked to see a copy of the warrant. Initially, they refused. They said, we don't have to show it to you. She said, well, there was a little bit of an exchange there. And eventually she saw it. She said, it was very thin, I'd say. And as you can tell from the public records and the supporting documentation, the warrant has been sealed. So we just still don't know too much about it. Now, this is just sort of the beginning of, probably a lot more of this. A lot of questions are being raised about whether there was an informant within the Trump residence who was sort of communicating with the FBI. Somebody telling him, oh, come in here. It's in this closet. There's all sorts of boxes over here, this, that, and the other. Is there a mole in Mar-a-Lago? We don't know. The raid on Mar-a-Lago, according to Newsweek, and they say this is their exclusive, this was based on information from an FBI confidential human source, which, as we know, are just so reliable, right? All of those CHSs, very, very reliable when they were, plotting a fake kidnapping hoax. Real reliable there for Governor Whitmer, right? They say one who was able to identify what classified documents former president was still hiding, and even the location of those documents, two senior government officials told Newsweek. The officials, who have direct knowledge of the FBI's deliberations and were granted anonymity in order to discuss sensitive matters, said the raid of Trump's Florida residence was deliberately timed to occur when the former president was away. They don't want him there. They don't want him to be able to sort of capitalize on any of the media presence. FBI and decision makers in Washington and Miami thought that denying the former president a photo op or a platform from which to grandstand or to attempt to thwart the raid would lower the profile of the event, say one source. The effort to keep the raid low-key failed, they say. Instead, it prompted a furious response from GOP leaders and Trump supporters. What a spectacular backfire, said one Justice Department official. Somebody said, I know that there is much speculation out there that this is a political prosecution, but it is really the best and the worst of bureaucracy in action. They wanted to punctuate the fact that this was just a routine law enforcement action, stripped of any political overtones, and yet they got exactly the opposite. Both senior government officials say the raid was scheduled with no political motive. But in planning the date and time, the FBI were focused on the former president's schedule. They wanted to avoid the media circus. And we know the rest of this story here. So is there a mole in Mar-a-Lago? We do not know, but we do know that the Democrats and the DOJ have not stopped there. They are continuing to go after other Republicans, including Scott Perry. He had his cell phone seized. This guy right here. This story came out today as well. Republican Scott Perry of Pennsylvania said on Tuesday the FBI came to his house and they said, your cell phone is now our cell phone. He posted, he said, this morning while traveling with my family, 3 FBI agents visited me and they seized my cell phone. The search is connected to an investigation being conducted by the Justice Department Inspector General, watchdog group, same guy who went after Jeffrey Clark and others. And again, spokespeople for the DOJ and the Inspector General both declined to comment, because when you're going after your political enemies in America, why comment about it? Just wait until you're done. What do you have to say? What do you want to say? Yeah, I'm prosecuting my political enemies. It's going to take several months, and we're going to use every single tool we have at our disposal. Take that and print it. Perry is closely linked to Clark. He's come under scrutiny, and they're saying that this guy was, a Trump ally, and he wanted a pardon and all of that stuff. So, right, it's not just being limited to Donald Trump. It's taking place all over the place. Matt Gaetz was on the air, and I think he was talking to this guy over on Newsmax. Let's listen to him.
Well, we have seen in the case of Meghan McCain and Asa Hutchinson a bit of a rhino stampede toward President Trump because we see how unprecedented these actions are. But speaking directly to Tim Scott, we should wait and hear all this out and wait and see how it goes. That's exactly what the weak Republicans were saying during the Mueller investigation. I feel like I've been to this movie before where McConnell and a lot of the McConnellites just say, oh, well, we should wring our hands and hope that President Trump didn't break the law. The reality is if the FBI and DOJ are cheating to try to ensnare President Trump in criminality, it won't even be the first time they've done it. And we caught them red-handed last time during the Russia hoax, where they were abusing the law enforcement and national security process
Michael
to launder
Sussman.
political dirt into the ether of criminal investigations. I mean, this was a highly performative raid, Rob. You had the entire circle around President Trump's great American flag full of black SUVs. The FBI even rented a rider truck so they could bring in like 30 armed agents to Mar-a-Lago, of all places. If they wanted documents, they could have sent a subpoena, but they were trying to send a message because they know that they've got an inflation bill that really isn't an inflation bill the American people don't support. And so they're trying to scare the country about MAGA because they know they're doomed in the upcoming midterm.
Yeah, and I think he's right on the money with that. It's the break glass in case of emergency. They are panicking. And it's not just Matt Gaetz saying this, okay? This is the AP that came out yesterday. They said the GOP, as Matt Gaetz was sort of hinting, is rallying around Trump following the FBI and the search of the former president's property. For much of the year, they say, small cracks in Trump's support has been showing. Dissatisfied Republicans were all wondering, what are we going to do? But after the FBI executed a search warrant, Republican Party swiftly united behind the former president. Well, yeah. Governor Ron DeSantis, who represents his strongest potential primary challenger, described the Biden administration as a regime and called Monday's Mar-a-Lago search the improperly thing. He said, another escalation in the weaponization of federal agencies against the regime's political opponents. GOP came out behind him. Robust defense of Trump came out, and it serves as a fresh reminder of the former president's enduring grip. The poor AP writers, oh, God, we're screwed. The sooner he kicks off the campaign, the better, says GOP Representative Jim Banks. Banks was among a dozen Republicans who said anything, about this stuff. And so that's over from the AP, and it's not just the AP. Okay, here's the other story. This one is just hilarious. They are just very upset about this. Politico is reporting on this one. They say, oh, gosh, what have we done? The FBI search of Trump's Florida residence is already rearranging the midterm election landscape, and it handed him a lifeline, says somebody. Let's see what this one says. Republican primaries resume one day after the FBI search, and it only appears to have cemented, love that word, Donald Trump's standing in the GOP ahead of 2024. Republican strategists working for potential rivals to Trump ahead of the next election were already preparing for the likelihood that he could now clear the field. Republicans across 4 midterm primary states on Tuesday were rushing to his side. Election deniers had a good night, so did women. But the week belongs to Trump. Here are 5 key takeaways. Somebody said, it'll be a coronation at this point. The most consequential development in the Republican primary this week did not come on Tuesday, but a day before on Mar-a-Lago. One Republican strategist who advises a potential rival, okay, so somebody's working for a non-Trumper, says completely handed him a lifeline, says, quote, unbelievable. It put everybody in the wagon for Trump again. It's just taken the wind out of everybody's sails. So I wonder who he's working for. Maybe Mike Pence or something. Maybe Adam Kinzinger. I don't know. For any other Trumpian candidate, the strategist says it's over. It's over. It's over. For any other Trumpian candidate, said it's over. John Thomas, a Republican political strategist who had been organizing a PAC to support DeSantis, said on Tuesday, we can hang it up, he said. We can just hang it up. He says, it couldn't be clearer. If Trump wants it at this point, I don't see how it's not his. It'll be a coronation at this point, not a primary. Republicans seem to know this on Tuesday, not just at the national level. Republican Party enamored by Trump's grievance politics. The FBI cast him more plainly as ever as a the FBI search cast him more plainly than ever as a politician persecuted by the left. Yeah, and they won, right? They won all over the place. And Joe Kent won. Arizona cleaned house. Kerry Lake and many others are all, winning, and they're probably going to win the general election. And so, as we can see, a lot of fallout from the sort of the Trump raid, but the consequences for the Democrats, well, they're trying to smear the former president, trying to rub his nose in sort of some of this baggage, but maybe backfiring pretty badly, as some people are saying Trump just got the coronation, and, in this type of environment, maybe that means he's the next president. We'll have to see. But that is Donald Trump, the Mar-a-Lago raid, Trump judge ordering a warrant response. Thanks for continuing to subscribe to this channel and following along as we cover this story.